Before we get to the guest, then, I wanted to transition into something that Ceruti brought to my attention. Magic fans unite, very upset. Our man Waz, who we meant to have on, and he was traveling.
We'll get him on.
So, right. We didn't, this wasn't like, hey, let's shit on the guy and not ask him about his opinion or have him on. We gave out we extended the olive branch, is what we should have said. So what was it? What did all the Magic people really upset about? Something he said.
Yeah, so I texted you and Bill, I think last Sunday or something before the pod, and it was because, and again, yeah, I asked Waz to come on. He's traveling today. He's going to be on with Bill actually later tonight. We'll get him on in the future. This isn't a thing where it's like, hey, let's talk about Waz behind his back. But he said on the Ringer NBA show on group chat, they were talking a bit. I think it was their top 5 future rankings for teams, and he was just kind of poo-pooing on the Magic in general, and specifically there was a line about Paulo not being like, oh, sometimes you get the first pick and it's Wemby, and then sometimes you get it and it's Paulo, implying that like Paulo wasn't something to be desired to have as a number 1 pick. And Magic fans everywhere picked that up. It was all over Magic, Reddit, Twitter, every other place, being like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're saying Paulo's not that dude. And I do think Waz, if that's what he meant, is wrong. We'll get him on again to ask about this. But it got me thinking, that's kind of a fun exercise to be like, all right, like, where would Paulo, Wemby, and the rest of the number 1 picks in the NBA rank over the last 10 years? You know, so I basically was just like, let's just rank them. Like, where would Paulo go in that? And that's what we're gonna do right now.
Yeah, Waz may have meant like sometimes you get the number 1 pick and it's one of the generational guys. Like when I was thinking about LeBron and the Sean Elliott interview that we're going to do later on, I was like, it's kind of Duncan, LeBron, and like Wembanyama based on expectation. Not to say that there aren't other people that were certainly hyped up. You know, Anthony Davis was up there, and Zion's going to be in this list that we do right now. Maybe that's what he meant, but like to have Paulo be the one where it's like, and then sometimes you end up with this guy, you're like, dude, no way. So maybe we disagree with him. Maybe it was his phrase. Look, all I'm telling you is somebody who speaks for a living, and then I'll see how something I said kind of gets like repurposed. You go, wait, yeah, but that's not exactly like the overall meaning of what I did. I mean, sometimes I think these breakout videos in general, like stuff that gets cut up. I'm like, did we do this shit before? Did we read 2 sentences of a book and go, oh my God? Like, I guess we kind of did sometimes with book excerpts to get it in the consciousness of people. But anyway, all right, moving on. Enough media Russillo revisitation here.
All right, why don't I do this? Let me just I'll go in order the last 10 years of number 1 NBA picks, right? Just so people have an idea of what we're referencing.
Post Anthony Bennett on, right?
This is post Anthony Bennett. Yeah. So starting in we started in 2014. So it goes Andrew Wiggins, Cat, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, DeAndre Ayton, Zion Williamson, Ant Edwards, Cade, Paulo, and Wembanyama. So we're going to rank those 10 guys. And like obviously, like some of those guys are newer than others, and we don't have the full picture. But I think this is sort of what they've done in the league so far, but also like what we are realistically projecting them to be, and how happy their team is that they have them on the roster. Obviously.
Well, Victor's number 1 because the chance of perhaps getting one of these generational guys. Number 2 is Ant.
Yep.
I don't know how anybody would debate 1 or 2 on that one. And you're right. But you're right though. This isn't the easiest thing because there's a combination of what you're still holding out hope for and then who they've been to this point. I would put Paulo 3rd. I'd put him over Zion and Cade just because the Zion injury part of it. I'd hear like Cade's been like, look out Pistons. I told you that team was sneaky talented. How about Duran the other night?
2020. Well,
So we're in agreement. If Victor, Ant, Paulo, I went Cade, Zion.
I went Zion, Cade. I still think, I was looking at Bill's trade value rankings, which aren't everything, and I agree with him. He has Zion at 28 and Cade at 42. I think there are people that would say we have Cade too high. I'm not selling any of my Cade stock. Totally. I'm still. I think since the All-Star break, he's been unreal. Since they kind of traded away some of the guys, I think that Monty Williams like refused to not play and actually started playing some of the guys that people are like, hey, why is Jaden Ivey not getting a ton of minutes? Like, I think Cade's game has been better and they've won some more games. I mean, obviously the only way to go for them was up, but I am selling 0 of my Cade stock. But I would still have Zion. I just think Zion, because I think Zion could, if everything was right, and again, chances are it's probably not going to happen for him. I think he's probably 2 behind Wemby, right?
Probably 2. Yeah. This is where it's like, it's hard though, because we're comparing players with different criteria. you know,
We
Wembanyama,
know
we're
too much
giving the
about
benefit
Zion
of
already.
the doubt, and with Zion, it's like, okay, but what about all the other times where it didn't work out? But am I still holding out the same hope for him? Look, I'm sure there's people that are pissed that Cat hasn't been mentioned yet, or that we'd have Cade or Zion ahead of Cat. But look, Timberwolves fans, we gave you one other thing to get super pissed off about, so just be thrilled.
Well, this is
Uh,
where I think this
I'm
is the
not a
vast
Cat
majority.
guy. I'm not a Cat guy, but they still need him. They still need him, and I, I don't know if you offered Cat for Cade, who would say no?
Well, that's the point. Is that I think Cade. I'm still of the belief that he can be like the primary option on a playoff team, on a good team. Maybe a middle of the road team. I just think the Pistons are a mess, and I'm not blaming that on
Yeah,
Cade.
I'm not
I
going
don't
to keep
think Cat can be
apologizing
that.
for liking Cade. So
I think we've
there you
seen
go.
enough of Cat though, where it's like he's said he's the best shooting big of all time.
So
Maybe he is. I just think ultimately he's like one of the top guys and not the top guy. And we've seen that with Ant Edwards. And I still think Cade can be the top guy. So if you're asking me like who do I feel better about building a franchise around, even at the same point or ages in their careers, I would just take Cade. We could disagree on that, but I would take Cade.
all right, do you have Wiggins seventh?
I have Wiggins seventh. Yep.
I
I think
have
that's
Wiggins
fair.
seventh. All right, it might not be because as much as Aiton is like driven me crazy because I think he's incredibly talented. By the way, he's on fire lately. He had a switch where he got stuck on quickly in the Toronto game, and he stayed right in front of Quickly, like locked him up 30 feet away from, like Quickly couldn't get around. It was like, oh, that's the guy that we saw in college that we get so excited about being like, he's a big who actually gets to stay on the floor to close games as we felt like the league was getting smaller and smaller. It might be getting bigger now again. But the Aiton Wiggins, but like that's just a lack of desire off if there ever was one.
I got to be honest with you. I I probably have Aiton lower than the average person. I probably have him lower than you. His numbers are fine. He's 16-10 for his career, but like I just can't get over the like I think he's closer to the Ben Simmons thing than he is like Fultz and Wiggins. Like I just think from an attitude perspective, I mean, this is a guy who, again, when was asked what would be what a success would be in his career, said like a second contract. He also said that like he has nothing to prove because he's already a max player. Well, guess what? The team immediately regretted giving you the max contract, and they immediately tried to trade you. And you kind of, I know it wasn't quite all his fault because there was some Monty Williams stuff in there, but basically just like pouted his way out of Phoenix. So I'm just not an Aiton fan. Like I don't care what the numbers are. I just don't think that's a guy that you want on like a winning basketball team.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're 25 saying, what else do I have to prove? That's not what I'm
Like
looking for. If I was in HR, the guy's showing up and be like, yeah, dude, I already made 100K. Suck it.
Well, just juxtapose that with Giannis, and I know not everybody has Giannis's mentality, but I think somebody asked him like, "Hey, do you think you're in the MVP discussion this year?" And he said like, "I think I'm like the worst player in the NBA this year." That's what I want to hear from a guy like that who's having an incredible year but still
Well, that
isn't
might have been
satisfied.
a bit dramatic. Okay, so
Sure.
we've got Cat Wiggins 6'7". I have Aiton Fultz, and
Wait,
then I
hold on.
put
Hold on. One thing on Wiggins really quickly. That 2022 season is a pretty big outlier though, right? I mean, he
yes.
was an all-star. I
He
don't want to
shouldn't have
say
been
it
an
was
all-star starter. The voting thing for that was weird. I think I voted Gobert, by the way, Minnesota, because you had to do the backcourt, front court thing. So I'm pretty sure I voted Gobert. And then I was like, wait, Wiggins is going to be a starter. And then there was some weird like campaign in China or something that helped prop up the vote a little bit. And he was really good in 22. So if you're going to say, hey, he's a ring, he was part of a championship team or whatever, for the most part, it's all been super disappointing.
Yeah, because that year, I don't want to say he was Joe Flacco, but there's some Joe Flacco-ish to that season where it was like, whoa, like we thought he was okay, and then he has this incredible outlier season, and then we're asking, oh, is this the guy? Did Golden State just unlock this guy for the foreseeable
His life
future? And
couldn't
he's
be easier with the other
yeah,
guys rolling. So,
and he's kind of just gone back to being,
yeah,
all
it's
right.
disappointing
So,
again.
but he's
At
7.
least
So
at
then
least Aiton's 25, and maybe I just am putting way too much in how. Like I thought when Aiton went to Portland, the numbers that he's putting up now is what he was going to do all season, and then we were going to start having like, oh, is Aiton really good again stuff? And it's like, no, he's comfortable not ever having to be uncomfortable. Like he doesn't want conflict, he doesn't want pressure, he didn't want to deal with any. I don't even know that he wants to play in all the games, but whatever he's been doing the last couple of weeks, specifically since he missed some time earlier this March, he's been on a tear and he's playing really well. So when he's 25, I'm like, I'm still taking that. Look, I would maybe move it up ahead of Wiggins here, but I'm still taking it ahead of
Yeah.
Fultz or Simmons.
See,
You
I
have
would have
Ayton
Fultz.
last.
I have Fultz 8 because at least I think with Fultz, he just gets the knock of it was so bad at the start and the shot thing and the injuries and stuff. He's been a valuable player for the Magic, and he's going to be a free agent this offseason. I think he's going to be a valuable player. I'm not saying he's going to be a star. He's maybe even a borderline starter, but San Antonio could use him right now, and I think he'd be awesome for Wemby. I think he's just like a good, solid player that you can depend on, whereas I just think Simmons and Ayton just aren't that. So I have Fultz actually 8.
And then who do you have 9?
I have Simmons 9, and I have 8 and 10.
You have 8 and 10th. Wow.
At least Simmons, he's 3-time All-Star. He had a couple of third-team All-NBAs, two-time All-Defensive Player. The highs of Ben Simmons were higher than the highs of Ayton. And Ayton's got you. He's 16 and 10 in his career. And I just think he's going to be like the Hassan Whiteside thing where like it's going to look okay for some times and like the stats might wow you. He's going to trick a lot of people into thinking he's good. And then he's just going to disappoint you every time. So
I would give Ayton another max before I would sign Hassan Whiteside. Okay. Do not hit me with the efficiency stuff. The issue I have with Simmons, I mean, it's minor. He never fucking plays anymore, Ceruti.
That's fair. But I'd rather have Simmons not playing, I think, than Ayton.
All right.
I'm just not interested.
That's awesome. That's a sizzler of a take, but that's just not. And look, I can't wait. You just let me know. I got the alerts ready to go when I get the July update on lookout for 24-25 Ben Simmons. I wish FanDuel would put a prop on which NBA reporter will write that dog shit piece again this summer.
Yeah, the 3-point shooting in the gym.
Because I'm actually friends with some of them. But don't do it if you are my friend. Don't be tricked.
Yeah.
Don't write the piece. But one of you is going to.